you. Hi, everybody. Welcome. And this is Ning from Roche, and I will be chairing the first session. Yeah, so before introducing our first speaker, just want to say that if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A session. And if we have time left for a certain session, we'll try to go over that. Yeah, so our first keynote speaker is Rich Iannone from RStudio. And Rich is a software engineer that focuses on writing R packages. Through this, he really wants to help people accomplish things that were difficult before. He has been at RStudio for 3 years and has been immensely enjoying his time over there. Some of the R packages he has been developed include GT, Diagram R, Blastula, and Point Blank. As far as outdoor activities are concerned, Rich enjoys meeting up with friends and wander through the many valleys and ravines of the greater Toronto area. So with that, I would like to welcome Rich, and he will be talking about GT today.
Thanks so much. So yeah, we'll talk about GT. I've got a presentation here. I'm just going to make this a bit larger. Great. So my presentation is called the GT Package, Past, Present, and Future. We'll go through all 3 different timeframes. And you can always find me at, on GitHub. That's where my work is. You can contact me on Twitter, even by email. It's all possible. Okay, this is like my elevator pitch for GT. It's a package that lets you just create display tables or summary tables or presentation tables, whatever. Tables that you share with a declarative interface, and it allows us to fine-tune the final appearance of the table, which is great. We can integrate these tables in R Markdown and even in Shiny. So it's good for all those different applications. So I just wanted to prove that GT is a package. If you haven't seen it before, it makes tables like this. These are tables I made well before GT was even released in 2018. Not bad. Almost good enough for entries in the table contest. So this is what you can do with GT. So that was the past, and I'll dwell a bit more on the past in this presentation. It's 3 parts: past, present, and future. The past sort of answers the question, what is the GT package, and what actually went into it? It's a bit like a developer story. We're going to turn our attention to the present day. What can GT do now? And the more exciting part is the future. What's in store for GT and beyond? So let's go into the past just for a little while. So way back in 2018, early 2018, we looked at a number of table packages available in R. I was surprised. There was quite a few. I thought there was 5. There were more than that. So we looked at all of them, and we noticed they had strengths in different areas. Some were known to be a bit domain specific, heavy on like the stats summary stuff, while others are more general. You can just do whatever you want. We noticed that most handled 1, maybe 2, sometimes a few output formats. So I'm talking like HTML, just text, LaTeX, stuff like that. So we saw these and we thought, can we innovate in this area at all? And yeah, we thought we could. We wanted to make something ggplot-like. We wanted to focus on non-interactive tables that delivered camera-ready output in a wide variety of formats. So we had a few core requirements before we even sort of started, making GT. So the first thing we had to have was a declarative but forgiving API. So, things we have today are from this. Like we should always start a GT table with the GT function. Any statements could be expressed in any order, give or take. Order sometimes matters, but usually not. And each function should act as instructions. GT should then figure out what to render. So it'll sort of reconcile what you expressed and render the table in the right way. We wanted to have table generation in multiple output types with the same API. So the same set of statements supplied here. GT should always work when taking the same code used for HTML. And, you can also make a LaTeX table with the same code. We really wanted powerful formatters for cell values. So take, for example, this unformatted column of values. We want to have things like formatting to an exact number of decimal places, formatting as integers, handling rounding and things like that, changing separators, the digit separators. a way to express values in scientific notation, a way to use percent signs, perhaps not scaling, ways to force the the positive sign, so it can show changes. We want to have significant digits. That's kind of hard to create numbers like that. We want to have great support for things like currencies, expressing values as bytes, even decorating values using a pattern. We wanted it to be flexible and have values formatted the way you wanted them to be. We also wanted to have it so you can experiment in the API, like move columns around, have GT do things for you, like group columns together if they're united under a single spanner, or you can just move columns manually. We really wanted footnotes. That's a thing we didn't see too much of in other table packages, but we know it's a thing, and we wanted to have it in there. We wanted them to be pain-free. So we didn't want you to have to worry about them and manually sort of reorder them. First of all, we wanted it to be straightforward to define table footnotes. They wanted the ordering to be sort of automatic. And the more advanced features are things that are just expected in footnotes. Like we should be able to apply the same footnote to multiple locations. And if you have multiple footnotes at one location, that should be allowed, and it should handle the numbering or lettering, in the right way. So, we worked away at it in most of 2018, and we released it in 2018. We had HTML as like the main output format, but we had LaTeX and RTF as experimental output types. Since then, we had tons of conversations with people on social media, inside GitHub issues, and through lots of customer conversations. And through those conversations, we learned pretty quickly what was working and what wasn't working at all with GT. So we got to work on fixing stuff. So we improved the RTF output support. We improved the tech because they weren't too good at the beginning. We added additional cell formatters like these ones right here, and we improved the existing cell formatters as well. Added more options. We provided more ways to style cells, which was very important. It's what people wanted. And we had various other quality of life improvements and API enhancements. Okay. In terms of those customer conversations with people, we had lots of those with people in pharma, and we discovered what the biggest requirements were. So we had conversations with Yilong Zhang from Merck, Tom Tensfeld and Mike K. Smith from Pfizer, Mike Stackhouse from Novartis, Devin Pastor and Adam Nevison from Metrum, and Adrian Waddell and Gabe Becker from Roche. So one of the big things we had to do was, again, fix RTF and LaTeX. That was an important set of requirements for pharma. We made them quite a bit more reliable. We got much more dialogue going about what pharma needs through a working group. It's called the R Tables for Regulatory Submissions Working Group. And it's sponsored by the R Consortium and put on by Joe Rickard. It meets every 6 weeks. So this is like an advertisement for that. If you want to join, please contact Joe or any of us at RStudio. All are welcome. If you have any interest in guiding requirements for like regulatory tables, this is like the venue for it. Okay, so that was a bit of the past. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I do want to talk about what GT can do today. So you can make really nice presentation tables in 3 output formats. Here's the same table in HTML, in LaTeX, and here it is from RTF, actually a screenshot of the table in Word. And GT works really nicely with R Markdown and Quarto. If you don't know Quarto, it's a great publishing system, and it works in Quarto. And you should definitely try it out if you're really into this sort of thing. So we were pretty happy because people tend to be using GT. We were seeing evidence of a large and enthusiastic user base. Some metrics, we don't see these too often, but there was this plot that was made by Tom Mock, mentioned since 2010 in Twitter. GT is actually in the ranks, which is not bad for a package released in 2018. Lots of GitHub stars, which is good to see. We did some work. We closed quite a few GitHub issues. And we talked a lot about GT. We gave a lot of presentations and delivered a few workshops. And people on Twitter, that's a place where I see a lot of GT. It's always warms my heart to see GT tables on there. These are actually GT tables. I couldn't believe this was actually one. It looks like a magazine page, but it's actually a table made with GT. And this is one as well. I couldn't believe it until I saw some code, but yeah, that's a GT table. We had some contests. In late 2020, we held the RStudio table contest, and you can submit any tables from any table package, and a lot of prizes were given out. And the same thing is happening now in 2021. There's an ongoing RStudio table contest, 2021 edition. GT, we want to make it usable to other packages. So not just like, creating one-off tables, but you could use GT in another package to create table outputs. Here's some examples from GT Summary, which is an incredibly awesome R package for making summary tables. Point Blank, where like some of the reporting outputs are GT tables. And GT Extras by RStudio's own Tom Mock. If you need more HTML power, then this is like a slam dunk package for you. It's just amazing. So that was all good stuff. But where does GT fall flat? I mean, it's not a perfect package by any stretch of the imagination. We actually learned from several users in Pharma, we had quite a few conversations, that not all their table requirements are fulfilled by GT. There's some table typologies that are needed by Pharma, but they're kind of difficult to make with GT. So some examples are, heterogeneous columns. So we have like some values down a single column and then some text. Well, how do you format these values? Well, not so easy. Multiple spanner levels. We can have level 1 spanners in GT today. Level 2, you're not going to get it. It's just not available. It's not expressed in the API. Okay, indentation levels in the table stub. I mean, you can sort of do it by styling, but it's not really first class, these indents. You can't really establish a hierarchy in the table stub, and you kind of need that. Okay, some of the things we saw were, in Pharma, there's all sorts of great table generation packages, and they have APIs that are directly tuned into Pharma's needs. However, one thing we noticed, and we notice this everywhere, output formats are limited. So our tables, its main thing is ASCII. It pumps out ASCII tables. It can sort of do HTML. It's sort of like a new format that it's in development. Another great package, tplyr, just incredible, creates HTML in the tech. Uses another package to generate RTF, and it has to use another package to generate RTF. So, it's a problem. But these packages, they're ideal for Pharma. Rendering support is a mixed bag, which is unfortunate. So that brings us to the future. What's in store for GT and beyond? And I hope I'm, sort of leading in the right direction about where I'm going. We're going to break things apart with GT. So while GT is general, a large amount of effort was put into rendering for multiple formats. So right at the beginning, we wanted to have multiple formats generated by GT. Okay, R tables. So I hope you've heard that package. Maybe you haven't. Adrian Waddell and Gabe Becker at Roche, they've made this package. They're developing it. It's perfect for what Pharma needs, but it has different support for table outputs. You've seen that before. ASCII is kind of like the main thing. Getting into HTML doesn't have RTF, so that's a problem. Okay, so this is like the beginnings of a solution, or it's sort of like a way to fix this. What if we made a separate library for rendering that others can use? So this is like a graphics device, but for tables. So a separate thing that you just throw your table representation into this, and it faithfully pumps out other formats, any format that you want, and we'll just have one thing do all of the outputting. Okay, that's proposal. So we think that's a good idea, and it's worth a development investment, like really worth it, and it's underway. It's called Tgen. So that's what it's called. We're keeping it under wraps for quite a bit longer because really it's very, very alpha. It's just like sketches that sort of work. We want to save you like the headaches from like looking at it. So, we just want you to know about it for now. So this is the first mention of Tgen at any conference. So this is like a really early look. So some goals for Tgen, because goals are important. It's not meant to be used directly by our users, but through packages. It'll contain R functions for describing tables using a low-level API, like these row and cell functions that are constructors. It's designed to be a good fit for any table packages that are making static tables, present and future packages. So our tables, it makes Pharma focus tables, Tgen renders. Let's just combine them and see what we can do with it. So what we've done is we've created a fork of our tables that interfaces with the Tgen R package, and it provides support for LaTeX rendering, which our tables currently doesn't have. So let's actually see that in action. I'm going to go to my favorite IDE, which is RStudio, and yeah, we did some work here in some other files to make it work. And what we've done here is we took one of their vignettes, or this is one of their vignettes. We just call it PDF document. Okay, because before the tables are being rendered as text. Okay, so let's actually render this in real time. It's a bit of a long knit. In the meantime, I do want to show you that here's the vignette from CRAN. And these tables here are text tables. Okay, this is like the before. And as soon as this knit is done, we will have a proof of knit and also some LaTeX tables in the vignette because it's all LaTeX. Okay, here we go. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and there we are. This was done by Tgen. So tables are here. It's got indentation. I'm going to scroll down. There's lots of tables. I don't want to go too far, but these are just text tables. Were text tables, but now they're LaTeX tables. Okay. So that's my little demo of what Tgen can do in this very early stage. Tgen handled the rendering. The RTables team didn't even know about this. They didn't focus on it. They didn't ask for this. They just got this kind of for free. So in the future, they just need to use Tgen for the rendering. And the great thing is they can just focus their efforts on making great table APIs for the pharma industry. They don't have to work on the output stuff. Just let Tgen handle that and work on the API side. Okay, so we plan to extend Tgen with features that Pharma can make use of. So this is like an open call to developers of table packages. We want to talk to you. Tell us about what you need from Tgen. Just get in touch with us. There's multiple lines of communication. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just talk to us. So we recognize there are table requirements that are particular to regulatory submissions, and that'll be addressed in Tgen. As far as being responsible, all GitHub issues will be seen by the team, and we'll actively participate in discussions. And we'll continue to prioritize any action items from such engagement because it's the pharma industry. We love you guys. So in the future, I can sort of see this. There's a logical endpoint for Roche. We can have access to an eventual package that makes regulatory table creation as simple as a single standardized function call. So Roche's vision of this is using a few packages. One is RTables that we've talked about. It's a general table generation package. It's open source and on CRAN. There's two more that they have in development, and they're currently closed source. They're works in progress. One is called Churn. It builds on RTables, providing mini helper functions that are common for pharma, so we can make adverse event tables. And Chevron is something that builds on top of RTables and Churn and provides functions that implement specific FDA submission tables. So one function per table. Okay, so the way this works is this will be sort of strung together. And they're currently making preparations for collaboration within the industry and the open sourcing of Churn and Chevron. And by combining Roche's stack with Tgen, it should be possible for you to take advantage of these tools, regardless of whether your workflow is based on ASCII, HTML, RTF, or PDF. So we want to focus for a bit on Tgen and make it work for GT first, and then help others make it work for their own packages. Again, we want to have support for HTML, RTF, LaTeX, and beyond, migrate the rendering in GT to be Tgen mediated. So the core priorities for us will be Tgen and GT going forward. But we are still keeping on top of all things that are important for users of GT. We won't do much on table rendering, of course, since Tgen will be eventually doing all of that. But GT still needs a ton of work, and many more things can and should be added, like things like more formatters, better formatters, ability to easily make manual changes like adding rows and merging cells, sort of like arbitrarily. unlimited levels for spanner labels, enhancements for footnotes, because there's always more you can do there, and ways to access values from a GT table. And this is particularly useful in R Markdown and Cordo. So that sort of like ends that. I wanted to sort of like end off by saying education and outreach are pretty important to us. This would be nothing without, teaching people how to use it and like, being involved in the community. So to that end, I recently provided a workshop here at RM Pharma. It's recorded, so soon it will be available for everybody to see. Also, if you poke around on my GitHub, you'll find all the source material there as well. I think it's called GT Workshop is the repo name. And in the near future, I'll be putting my streaming hat on and teaching some GT and maybe some other R stuff in the far more casual setting of Twitch. So I'll let you know when I broadcast there. And I'm always available to conduct more workshops. Just ask. And yeah, it could be like small, large. It's really not a big deal at all what format it's in, as long as it happens. And if you have any questions about GT, where it's going, just problems, issues, contact me, Phil Bauscher or Jason Mills, and we'll be sure to get to you in short order. And that is really it. Just want to say my presentation, it breezed by because I really want to have lots of time for discussion. And it's available here on this GitHub site. So that ends off my presentation.
Thank you very much, Rich. It's very amazing to see the Tgen, to see like the new features and also the cross-industry collaboration. Just a reminder to everybody, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A session, and we'll spend the next 20 minutes or so to address those questions. And I'll be monitoring the Q&A session over there. Also, please feel free to vote up the questions you want to answer, you want to hear about as well. Yeah, so I guess my first question is that it's very exciting to see the Tgen work. If people want to say contribute to a new feature or test out the alpha version or pre-alpha version, like is there a way for them to get involved early?
Yeah, I would say just contact us because we're sort of like keeping it a bit private because it really is super early. It's almost like very rapidly developing. So I would say just get into contact and we'll maybe have video chat if you're into that, or other ways you can have an asynchronous chat in other ways. Just reach out to me. And that's probably the best way at this early stage because we don't have any of the usual mechanisms like GitHub, like issues or discussions. And it's a bit more personal to talk to us, and we always enjoy it.
Cool. And you also mentioned about the table working group, right? So would that be a good channel as well?
Yeah, that'd be perfect, actually. Yeah, we'll talk about it there. There'll be like maybe some demos as time goes on. And it's really good group, and like you can learn a lot just by knowing what other people need in the industry. So it's useful in lots of ways, not just for like learning about GT. It's about the whole scope of like getting regulatory tables done in R. Cool,
awesome. Yeah, and then there is a question about interactivities. Like I think there is question about like whether you have any plan on having some interactivities just like paging and collapsing.
Yeah, that was thought about. And we do want to do that. We sort of push that a bit back, especially since Tgen is getting off the ground and becoming a bit of a focus. We do want to have some light interactivity in the near future. So definitely watch that. But I think the core priority is still that the problem space that is not fully solved is like the static tables. But you never know. I'm not ruling it out, but it's definitely not going to be this year or early next year for that.
Cool. Yeah. And maybe one related question from me is that in terms of the RStudio like IDE integration, I remember like there was some very nice integration for GT. I wonder for Tgen, is there any plan to like have that as well?
Well, the great thing about Tgen is you'll never have to see it. So there really doesn't need to be an integration. We just have to make sure that all the tables get rendered properly, and then we hope with like Tgen you never see it as a user. So it's kind of like, I guess, no for that. It's not needed. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. Cool. Yeah. And then any plans to add hover text to GT tables?
Sorry, what text?
Hovering text.
Oh, hovering text.
Mhm.
Well, you can do that sort of if you have HTML output tables. You just have to know a little bit of, you have to be a bit of an HTML wizard to do that. But it's all possible. You can use things like text transform to modify the text, like the cell text in each cell. And then you can replace stuff with a template that contains hover text. I actually do that in point blank. I have I use a library called balloon.css, and it has really beautiful hover text. If you want to include how to do that, just look in the source code. I know it's terrible. Go check out source code. But if you do, you'll get some good clues about how to use hover text that looks really nice.
Awesome. Yeah, I see another question also for HTML output. Yeah, it's kind of asking if they have a very long or wide table, can there be kind of fixed header and fixed footnote position, etc. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. That is a definite issue we want to resolve, especially when it comes to LaTeX tables and things like that. So yeah, that's on our watch or sort of our to-do list to solve, because yeah, that's a known issue, and personally, I don't like it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. And another question about giving feedback and whether they should give feedback via GitHub. I assume GitHub issue will be a good place as well.
Yeah, GitHub is not bad. If you even just put it in the GT repo, issue there, that's great. And if you don't want to make it an issue, but have these questions, you can definitely use the discussions area too, which is sort of a new feature of GitHub, and it's activated in the GT repo. So yeah, up to you. Just the key thing is that you just post it somewhere, and I will see it.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome.
And some questions about submission. So one question is for probably the scope or the vision of Tgen, would that be providing some common functionalities for general regular submission, or that will be tied with a specific company's requirement? I assume it's no, but want to hear from you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely no. Basically, by the time the table reaches Tgen, it'll be fully resolved and worked out. It'll just have a specification for a table, which means that everything will be formatted. All the text will be there. There's nothing left to do except render. So definitely no more reshaping and no more moving things around. Yeah, that's what Tgen does, and it's kind of nice. It's freeing in that you can separate the API from the sort of the compilation side, or the sort of the table device side. So yeah, definitely there's going to be no more no functions like that in Tgen.
Yeah, and I feel from the working group and from your slide, we see a good diversity of companies. So I assume that all the feedback will be taken. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. And several questions about the streaming, the Switch streaming. Could you provide a little bit more details on how to find it, etc.?
Yeah. So I'm still working that out. I've sort of I dusted off my old Twitch account, and I've been improving my equipment here in the office bunker. So I'm making this sort of a stream friendly area, and basically, yeah, I'll do some GT stuff. I'll start with that. I'll do some other R things as well as I think of them. I'm sort of developing a program, a program of things to do. But yeah, it might also be things like delivering a GT workshop, maybe some more advanced stuff. I will post it maybe on Twitter and other places and get it amplified, so you hopefully hear about it. And yeah, that's my goals. That's my late 2021 goals, and to get sort of a little more active with teaching GT.
Awesome. Yeah. And I saw another highly voted question is about RTF, and I feel like you already mentioned that, but is there anything else you want to mention about RTF integration functionalities around that?
Yeah, well, RTF is a big thing, so we definitely want to have that in Tgen. We want to improve upon it. So basically, we want to see what's important in RTF tables or actually get sort of submitted, and we want all those things to be possible in Tgen. RTF is kind of a tricky one because it's the hardest code to generate, but we think we could, with all the lessons learned from GT, we can port that over to Tgen and even make it better. Because right now in Tgen, we have better LaTeX support than we ever had, even presently in GT. So it's actually quite nice just to have a thing where you just focus on the output, the rendering side.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then another question, what about GT to Markdown to PowerPoint or other slide format, basically slide generation? Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be eventually supported in Tgen as well. So everything is sort of moving over, and it's definitely on the radar for something to be done. I actually have a fork or a branch of GT which does Word table output, and it's just as good as RTF. We sort of like didn't release that because we're going to work on Tgen support over there. But you're definitely free to try that out. Just like load the branch into your library and use that in R Markdown in a Word document. And you should be able to get GT tables in a Word document through that. It's a little hard to find, but if you have a question about where to find it and how to install that, just reach out.
Awesome. And one question about role spanning. Is role spanning or cell merging in the works for GT packages similar to column spanning, but for roles?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So things like we'll have things like ways to merge and also to add structure to rows, like hierarchical parts on the left side. So yeah, it's definitely a thing we got to do. And also things like we have row summaries. We want to have column summaries as well. So that's something that's definitely on our to-do list.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I think we covered most of the technical questions. Yeah, maybe you can spend the last 5 minutes or so just like talking about collaboration and maybe talking more about you. And like one question is that like I see that there are a lot of activities going on from since last year, the like GT like what like presentation last year. Yeah, what was like the most inspiring feature or surprise learning for you like during the past year? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like people want different output formats. Now it's like it's a constant thing. That was surprising to us. We thought just a few would be good, but no, we got to have more breadth of output formats, and that's really what we're hoping Tgen will help achieve. Because it's like separate and sort of like self-contained. We don't have to worry so much about the impacts on the generating side, like the API side, which is great. So it's like isolated, and we just work on output formats. And we really need to generate like almost like 8 or so of them. And it's basically all the Office outputs, which are open Office XML, HTML, RTF, PDF, text. There's probably 1 or 2 even more beyond that. But yeah, it's constantly surprising, actually. Just how often it's asked for and how much is needed. I mean, maybe it should be surprising anymore, but we really got that wrong, and so we're going to rectify that with Tgen, I think.
Cool, awesome. And I guess like for this presentation, you are more focusing on like pharma use cases. Just
Yeah.
curious, outside of pharma, what are the other like spaces that people are using GT, and what are their requirements, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, one big space that we noticed, especially on Twitter, is like sports analytics. I see the bulk of tables is like analytics from sports. So it could be like NFL. Sometimes it's hockey. Lots of times it's basketball. But it's really great to see because like you get like a just sort of a sports stats nerd. So it's really awesome to see that stuff. And yeah, that looks like a big area of of use for GT. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, that's the one I see the most besides pharma. Yeah, I see pharma and that are like the biggest ones, and also just generally science as well.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like for research, like people definitely use that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen lots of that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a experience sharing for developers. Like, how do you handle those like massive amount of requests from different areas?
Yeah. Well, we sort of triage everything in GitHub. We prioritize. We think we sort of like balance what we can do quickly with what's most important. So that's how we choose to work on a feature. Sometimes features take a long time to implement because we really want to get it right when we do release it. So it takes a bit more time. Yeah, so it's sort of that balancing act. Like there's, we sort of lump things into groups and triage and try to be sort of methodical when it comes to handling enhancements. Things like bug fixes, we want to fix right away. So we definitely prioritize that the most. But when it comes to features, yeah, we want to be careful and work on the things that, a lot of people can use and can be done nicely.
Cool. Yeah. Do you have like people like for developers, do people like specialize on one area, or like you guys are kind of like taking tasks just like based on the urgencies, etc.?
Yeah, it's basically just on urgency, and there's not too many of us working on GT actually. Maybe 2 or 3 at a time. So
Cool.
yeah, so we don't have much like like doling out of different tasks. Yeah, we just sort of take it. We use triaging, and yeah, we handle things in sort of that order and make sure we get it right.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Maybe the last question. So yeah, I feel like the big progress has been made like from the cross industry working groups, and it's amazing to see that all those people come together. As you mentioned, like all people come together with
Yeah.
their like own kind of grassroots efforts from their company, and then now really try to make a single package that are usable for wider audience over there. Could you
Yeah.
share a little bit experience on that? Because I know right now, like there are multiple working groups hosted by different organizations, by fields, by our consortium, etc. Yeah, just any experience, any tips on how you guys like came to this stage?
Yeah, well, that's all Joe Rickert. He does the working group for our tables.
Cool.
And yeah, he'd have more to say on that, but he was able to get off the ground and get lots of people initially, and the group has been growing a bit, and and every meeting is good. We learn something new, and I'd say it's a success. So yeah, definitely join if you can, if you have any sort of like um, any interest really in this sort of thing, and just see what it's like. If you don't like it, you can always like just go for one meeting, but I think it's worthwhile and it's a great thing.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Rich. I feel like we learned a
Well,
lot, and I'm pretty sure people are eager to try out the new Tgen package. Yeah. So thanks
yes,
again for the great presentation.
you're
And
welcome.
like, if people have any question, they can find you via like the channels you mentioned
Yeah,
over
right
there.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just contact me and I'll talk to you.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.
you're
Yeah.
welcome.